So, what is the purpose of a fighter kite bridle in a North American fighter kite? Well, the most important thing is probably the fact that it is where you connect your flying line. It connects right here to what is called the toe point of the bridle. And on a 3-point bridle, like this one, this is adjustable in where it is on the kite. So you can change the angle of attack the kite has to the wind. And that's very important when you're flying in different areas with different wind conditions. So the purpose of a bridle is really multifaceted. Not only is it where you connect the flying line, it's where you're able to determine the angle of attack of the kite, which you can change while you're flying or, while you're at the flying field by just adjusting this location of the toe point up or down. The other thing is if the kite, when you're flying it, begins to veer off to one side, always just turning to one side, no matter what you try to do, it's always that way. Well, it can be corrected by the bridle on a 3-point bridle. That's what this adjustment up here is designed to do. It uses a lark's head knot, just like this one does, so that it can be adjusted and then locked in position. So let's say that the kite is always veering off to this side, always going this direction. When I look at the bridle and I pull it so that I can see that the knot is off center, it tells me that this line right here of the bridle is too short. Needs to be lengthened in order to straighten out the flight of the kite. So I just do that. I pull this, allows this knot to be adjustable. I move it a little bit, get it centered, thinking that might be a cure. I open it up to lock it, and I fly it to see how I did. Now, there are times, quite often in fact, where using synthetic material, well, any materials for that matter, for the frame of the kite, for example, the bow here, this is carbon fiber. Now, when I tension it like this, it feels to me as though the carbon fiber is bending equally along its length, but it may not be. And that slight distortion can easily cause the kite to veer off to one side or the other. So if the kite is doing that, it isn't an indication that you made the kite incorrectly. Most likely it has to do more with the materials you use, that they are not completely perfect in the amount of tension that they have when they're compressed, that they may be slightly weaker, more flexible on one part than another. You never really know for sure because it's very, very subtle. And that's all it takes to make the kite fly incorrectly. So controlling the kite flight is probably what most kite flyers consider the most important part of a bridle's function. But there are other aspects to a bridle's function that are very, very important and can very nicely help the kite flyer. And that is, it can help control the shape of the spine of the kite. Now, if this spine is very, very flexible, and during high wind, or if you're retrieving the flying line very quickly and create a lot of wind pressure on the sail, it may bend the lower part of the spine backwards, allowing the wind to just flow off of the sail, which you do not want as a fighter kite flyer. You want the effect on the sail to remain even when the wind is high. So the bridle helps to maintain that stiffness, and it does it by simply being attached close to the tail of the spine, and this helps to minimize the amount of flex that the kite spine has at the tail. Because if you were to just bend it from the point here, there, it's quite stiff compared to bending it from, say, here. Much more flexible. So this helps to control the shape of the spine. And that aspect can be taken to almost any amount of configurations to create the most control over a very flexible spine. And why would you even want that? Well, here is an example of a kite that has a 4-point bridle. And this is an attempt to help control more precisely the shape of the spine during flight. Now, in this case, it is adjustable at each point. It's adjustable here, it's adjustable at the toe point, and it's adjustable here in order to allow for the best shape of the spine during flight. One of the legs of the bridle are located above the wingtip line, which is the line drawn between two wingtips and where it crosses the spine here. Generally speaking, from this point to the tail of the kite, we want that to remain stiff. We don't want it to flex backwards. From here to the nose, we put a bend in it intentionally using a tension line if you're using carbon fiber or a synthetic. If you're using bamboo for a spine, you might just bend it and it will remain bent. So even though this is bent outward here, if the wind pressure is high enough and the material of the spine is flexible enough, it will actually do this. It'll go backwards and release the pressure of the wind from the sail of the kite. So one way to help reduce that is to put a bridle connection here so that it won't be as easy to happen. There are more than one way to do a multiple point bridle. This is one way. Another way is to, and this is to accomplish pretty much the same thing. It puts the bridle connections all below the point where the wingtip line crosses the spine, because this spine is stiffer overall. So the stiffness of the spine will really determine to a large degree what you want for a bridle. And this is one that has an additional leg. It actually has 5 points connected to the kite, 2 at the bow and 3 along the spine to control the spine shape. And the reason is because this spine is very, very flexible. The reason it's flexible is I wanted to make this kite very lightweight. And one way to do that is to cut down the size of the material you use for the frame of the kite. So that's what I did. And as a result, it required support to prevent it from bending in a way that would release the wind pressure off the sail, which changes radically the way the kite performs. And you don't have any control over that as a kite flyer. It's a function of the materials you used when you made the kite. So this is one way. Now here, this is adjustable. This is adjustable. This is adjustable. This is not. On this one, I just decided to put a piece of line between these two and make a loop and allow the loop to just find its location based on the kite and its angle of attack and the wind pressure. And it's self-adjusting. So what are the benefits to the flyer in all of this? I mean, is it really worth it? Well, that's a good question.